Have you asked God for what you need and what you want for this new year? Or do you assume He just knows it and therefore you don't need to take time to share your needs with God? Well, here's what I want to say to you today. If you want to be faithful and be a good steward of your talents, then don't just sit there. You need to ask God for what you need. God gave you those talents. He cares about you and your gifts. But God doesn't take control of your life. He doesn't override things. He doesn't override your will. You have a choice to ask God for the insight you need and the resources you need to do all you're called to do this year. Too often we encounter people who think spirituality is a form of passivity. It's not biblical. It's simply not true. There's a time to wait upon the Lord, but there's also a time to act, to move forward, to be strong and courageous and go where God's called you, to trust in the Lord. And that's what we're going to talk about today, asking God for what you need. Welcome. I'm Joel Pelsu, president of Arts Entertainment Ministries. Our passion is helping you as a creative professional to succeed in your creative life while growing deeper in your spiritual walk. Because your creativity and your spirituality are designed by God to be integrated with each other. God did not call us to compartmentalize our work and our creativity separate from our faith. He designed them to work in concert with one another. And that's our passion. So if that's your passion, take a second to like our channel, hit the subscribe button, and share it with your friends. Oh, and before we jump in, I want to let you know we have online courses for you about your calling as an artist, about theology and art, and of course, our course called Catalyst, which teaches you about being an entrepreneur in the art world and the entertainment industry. And people take these courses from all over the world. The links are all down below if you want to check them out. Now, as we consider this idea of needing to ask God for what we need, I want to take a look at Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52, where Jesus heals a blind man. Here's the passage, starting at verse 46. And they came to Jericho, and he was leaving Jericho, Jesus, with his disciples, and a great crowd. Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. How insensitive, right? The presence of Jesus. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stopped and said, Call him. And they called the blind man, saying to him, Take heart, get up, he is calling to you. And throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, What do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said to him, Rabbi, let me recover my sight. And Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him on the way. And again, this is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 46 to 52. It seems so obvious. The man is blind, and Jesus still asks him, What do you want from me? I can imagine Peter stepping in to say, Jesus, I think it's obvious. Maybe you didn't notice, but he's blind. He wants to be healed so he can see. But notice this profound point. Peter, or any disciple, cannot speak for anyone else. Our spiritual life cannot be lived by proxy, by our parents, by our friends, by anyone else. God doesn't override our own will. God asks us to choose whom we will serve and to take time to think about our needs and to go to God and ask God what we need. Our will is not overlooked. It may need to be awakened. We need to be engaged with God, laying our petitions before His feet, trusting that He can do more than we've imagined or dared to consider to ask of Him. Having that faith and trust. So we need to speak up. Ask God for what you need. Or as in the case of this man, what do you want from Jesus? Jesus exhorts us throughout the Gospels to ask. He even warns us, you have not because you ask not. We've all heard the passage. We're encouraged through Christ and the apostles to bring our requests to God. Don't just assume He knows them. That's never a biblical pose. Bring our requests to God, because part of that is not informing God, but us being vulnerable before God to make that request. You know, the Father knows what we need before we ask Him, the Bible tells us. So why ask for something He already knows you want? The purpose of asking is not for God's benefit, it's for ours. The point is this, in our prayers, God wants us to open our hearts. He's calling us to tell the Father our concerns. He wants to hear from you. He knows that it's good for you to pour out your heart. Ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Not I give it whether you say it or not, or you find it without seeking. there's something mysterious here about our wills. Jesus asked the blind man, "What do you want me to do for you?" So I'm asking you, what do you want as we begin another year? If Jesus was before you, and you can go to the throne in prayer anytime, what do you want? Do you want to raise money for a new film you're producing? Do you want to sell more art? Do you want to have more influence on the culture and be salt and light? Do you want to get to a whole new level of creativity and mastering your craft? Do you need creative inspiration? Are you dried up and discouraged? Do you need a partner to collaborate with? What do you want? And if Jesus walked into your studio or on the lot or stepped on the stage during rehearsal, what would you ask him for? Now, of course, this isn't just about you. God isn't there to make your life easy, make you rich and famous. That's not what this is about. It's not health and wealth. Just think of your desires and God grants them. No. God wants to use you to honor him through your gifts and to be salt and light in the culture where you live. You will be blessed in the process. The truth is, we can find incredible joy in being used by God to impact the lives of others, whether we make billions or millions of dollars or just enough to get by. So don't listen to this message and think God is a genie in the bottle who has to give you whatever you want. That's an idol. That is not God. You know, there's a reason most of the movies about a genie in a lamp do not actually end well. The riches are not earned. The character and integrity it takes to achieve those things without wishes cannot be faked. And in the end, your wishes, like sins, will find you out and expose that you are not who people thought you were. You cheated by using a genie. That's not at all what we're talking about in prayer. With God, we go to him in prayer. He gives us good things for our heart, our soul, and to bless others, not just riches. Now, it may seem counterintuitive, but you experience more joy when you focus on doing what God has called you to do instead of asking for things that you think will make you happy. There's so many people, and we have people watching our videos in third world countries, other places around the world, and this health and wealth gospel is toxic and dangerous. Jesus didn't die on the cross to make your life easy. He died to make you more like Christ and find joy in becoming like Christ. And we start confusing these things. It's very dangerous. You know, your Father in heaven loves you, and he wants what is truly best for you, not what you think you want. Just like I want my kids to be healthy more than I want to satisfy their desires for candy and chocolate. I don't give them everything they want, but I do want to know their hearts, and I want to give them what is good for them. That's a picture of God in heaven. God is not here to make you wealthy or successful. He can, and if you work hard and you develop your gifts and your talents and you take those opportunities and you become a good entrepreneur and you know those skills, then those doors start to open. It's not just asking God and miraculously things change. You develop your gifts, but you also need to go to God and ask for what you need. To ask someone for something is to be vulnerable, admit you have a need. And he wants you to take the time to sit and pray. He wants you to humbly ask for it, even if it seems outlandish or extravagant. He wants you to place your dreams and desires before his feet at the throne. And he wants you to kneel before him and acknowledge that he is the only one who's fully able to care for you and to grant those requests or even better things you haven't dared to dream of. You see, it's a place of both vulnerability because you're admitting your inadequacy to do it without him, and you're admitting you need God's help. But at the same time, it is a place of boldness. We come before the throne of grace with confidence because it takes faith to believe that he cares about you. This God of the universe cares about your prayers and your desires. Out of billions of people living today, and besides their needs, you believe he cares about you. That's taking his promises by faith. Prayer with God, when we bring our requests, is a kind of sublime intimacy because it connects an acknowledgement of God's overwhelming power with a very intimate and vulnerable request. It's where our fragile and vulnerable hearts find comfort in the arms of an all-powerful God of the universe. And this is the place we are called to meet God, not unlike Moses before the burning bush. God has come to meet us, and Jesus has already made it possible for us to have communion with this one true God. But we still need to speak up. We still need to open our mouths to ask for what we need, not to educate God, but to humble ourselves and admit our need and acknowledge that the only one who can satisfy our desires is God himself. So the question is right now, what do you want from God as we start this year? Don't skip the process of sharing your desires and needs with God. Be vulnerable and then be honest. Share your dreams, your desires with God. Ask Him to show you how He wants to use you to glorify Him through the gifts He has given you. And let me know down below, are you starting the year by taking your request to God? Are you being vulnerable as well as putting your trust and faith in God? And I do love to get your comments on these and your questions. Does this spark another idea? Is there something you're realizing you need to come before God and have that intimate time with Him to request and trust in this good God? Leave your comments down below. And while you're there, please take a second to subscribe and like the video. It does help. Share it with your friends. And if you enjoyed this, I urge you to check out our website and our online courses by clicking one of the links down below. We have our Artist Calling course. We have Catalyst, training you to be an entrepreneur, and we have the Institute Core Foundations of Bezalel, giving you a deep, rich theology that we've taught to professors at Christian colleges and pastors and leading artists around the world. As always, I pray that God may bless you and equip you to be salt and light in this dark world that desperately needs it. Now check out another one of our videos right here.